Have you ever asked yourself a question that seems completely irrational? Why do I still miss someone who hurt me? Why do I feel drawn to someone I know was toxic? Why is it so difficult to walk away from a relationship that caused so much pain? Many people believe the answer must be weakness, emotional dependency, or that they simply loved too much. But the truth is something very different. Toxic relationships can actually change the chemistry of your brain and the biology of your body. The attachment you feel may not be about love at all. In many cases, it follows patterns that are surprisingly similar to addiction. And once you understand what is happening inside the brain and nervous system, something powerful begins to happen. You stop blaming yourself, you start understanding yourself. And that understanding can be the beginning of real healing. Today, we're going to explore exactly why toxic relationships feel addictive, what happens in the brain and body during these relationships, and the first steps that allow people to break that cycle. One of the most confusing experiences after a toxic relationship is the emotional contradiction that follows. Logically, you know the relationship was unhealthy. You remember the arguments, you remember the manipulation, you remember the emotional instability, you remember how exhausted you felt. And yet, despite all of that, there is still a part of you that misses the person. Sometimes you even crave their presence. This internal conflict can be deeply distressing. Your mind knows the relationship was harmful, but your emotions still feel attached. Many people interpret this conflict as weakness. They ask themselves, why can't I just move on? Why do I still think about them? Why do I still feel pulled back? But what many people do not realize is that this pattern has a name. It is called trauma bonding. Trauma bonding happens when emotional pain and emotional reward become intertwined. The same person who causes distress is also the person who provides comfort. And this combination creates a very powerful psychological attachment. Over time, the brain begins associating that person with both relief and anxiety. This mixture of fear, longing, and relief can create one of the strongest emotional bonds a person can experience. To understand why toxic relationships feel addictive, we need to understand something about how the brain learns patterns. The human brain is designed to seek reward. Whenever we experience something pleasurable, the brain releases a neurotransmitter called dopamine. Dopamine is often called the reward chemical. But dopamine is not just about pleasure, it is about motivation. It pushes the brain to repeat behaviors that lead to reward. In healthy relationships, emotional safety and affection are relatively consistent. The brain learns that connection equals stability. But toxic relationships often operate under a very different system. Instead of consistent affection, they rely on something psychologists call intermittent reinforcement. Intermittent reinforcement happens when rewards appear unpredictably. Sometimes there is affection, sometimes there is distance, sometimes there is warmth, sometimes there is rejection. And surprisingly, this unpredictability can make attachment stronger, not weaker. In fact, intermittent reinforcement is one of the most powerful behavioral conditioning systems known in psychology. It is the same principle used in slot machines and gambling systems. The brain keeps chasing the next reward because it never knows when it will arrive. And in toxic relationships, the reward is emotional connection. A kind message, an apology, a moment of affection. Those brief moments of closeness release dopamine, and the brain becomes conditioned to keep seeking them. But addiction-like patterns in toxic relationships don't only exist inside brain chemistry. They also show up in behavior. When someone becomes emotionally attached through trauma bonding, they often start adapting their actions in subtle ways. They might begin constantly checking their phone, hoping for a message. They may replay conversations in their mind, trying to understand what they did wrong. They might change their behavior to avoid conflict or to regain affection. Over time, the relationship begins to shape daily habits, emotional reactions, and even self-perception. This is how the emotional loop becomes stronger. The brain learns a pattern: stress followed by relief, distance followed by attention, pain followed by temporary connection. And each time the cycle repeats, the emotional bond deepens. This pattern is very similar to what psychologists call intermittent reward conditioning. It's the same mechanism that makes certain habits, and even some addictions, so difficult to break. The brain keeps hoping that the next interaction will bring the emotional reward it remembers. And that hope can keep people emotionally attached long after the relationship has already become harmful. Understanding this behavioral loop is important because once we recognize the pattern, we can begin to interrupt it. And that is where healing truly starts. Understanding trauma bonding becomes easier when we look at some common behavioral patterns. Here are 5 signs that a relationship may be creating a trauma bond. 1. You feel emotionally addicted to the person. Even when you know the relationship is unhealthy, you feel an intense pull toward them. 2. The relationship follows a cycle of conflict and reconciliation. There are repeated patterns of emotional pain, followed by moments of affection or apology. 3. You find yourself constantly hoping the person will change. Even when the pattern repeats many times, you continue believing that the next phase will be different. 4. You minimize or rationalize harmful behavior. You may excuse manipulation, disrespect, or emotional neglect. 5. Leaving feels physically painful. People often describe feeling anxiety, panic, or deep emotional distress when they try to distance themselves. These signs do not mean someone is weak. They often indicate that the brain and nervous system have adapted to a powerful emotional cycle. Toxic relationships do not only affect the mind, they affect the body in very real ways. When a person experiences ongoing emotional stress, the body begins producing higher levels of cortisol. Cortisol is the primary stress hormone. In short bursts, cortisol helps the body respond to danger. But when cortisol remains elevated for long periods, it can have serious effects. People leaving toxic relationships often report symptoms such as chronic fatigue, sleep disturbances, heightened anxiety, difficulty concentrating, emotional instability, digestive problems. This happens because the nervous system has been operating in a prolonged stress state. The body has been prepared for emotional conflict for months or even years. Many people describe feeling physically exhausted after leaving a toxic relationship. That exhaustion is not imaginary. It is the result of a nervous system that has been under pressure for a very long time. One of the most dangerous aspects of trauma bonding is how easily it can be mistaken for love. Toxic relationships are often emotionally intense. There may be dramatic reconciliations, deep emotional conversations, passionate moments of closeness. Those emotional highs can feel powerful, but intensity and love are not the same thing. Healthy love is stable. Healthy love is predictable. Healthy love creates safety, not chaos. But when someone becomes accustomed to emotional roller coasters, calm relationships may initially feel unfamiliar. Sometimes they even feel boring. That does not mean the relationship lacks depth. It simply means the nervous system is adjusting to stability. And stability can feel strange after long exposure to emotional chaos. Breaking a trauma bond is not about simply deciding to move on. It often requires rebuilding emotional and neurological patterns. Here are 7 steps that help many people begin that process. 1. Awareness. Understanding what trauma bonding is can immediately reduce self-blame. 2. Limiting contact. Reducing exposure to the person allows the brain to gradually weaken the conditioned response. 3. Rebuilding emotional stability. Practices that calm the nervous system, such as exercise, therapy, and supportive friendships, can help restore balance. 4. Reframing the relationship. Instead of focusing only on the good memories, it can be helpful to acknowledge the full pattern of the relationship. 5. Strengthening personal identity. Many people lose parts of themselves inside toxic relationships. Rediscovering interests, goals, and passions can be incredibly healing. 6. Allowing time. The brain does not reset overnight. Healing often happens gradually. 7. Practicing self-compassion. Perhaps the most important step is learning not to shame yourself for the attachment you experienced. Your brain was responding to powerful emotional conditioning, and that conditioning can be changed. If you have ever struggled to understand why leaving a toxic relationship feels so difficult, you are far from alone. Many people assume they should simply be able to walk away, but the reality is far more complex. Toxic relationships can reshape emotional patterns, stress responses, and even brain chemistry. What feels like love may actually be a cycle of emotional conditioning. And once you understand that cycle, something powerful happens. You stop asking, "What's wrong with me?" And you start asking a much more helpful question. What happened to me and how can I heal? Understanding the science behind these emotional patterns does not erase the past, but it gives you something incredibly valuable: clarity. And clarity is often the first step toward freedom.